We were taught the pharaohs built pyramids to house the dead. We were lied to. The greatest architecture of ancient Egypt wasn't made of limestone. It was carved into the living human brain. 4,000 years ago, while the rest of the world was fighting for basic survival, a caste of priest-physicians in the Nile Valley was performing successful neurosurgery. They didn't see the skull as a bone. They saw it as a sacred hardware that could be upgraded. In 1862, the world found the Edwin Smith Papyrus. It wasn't a book of spells. It was a cold, clinical manual for brain surgery, but there is one specific case. Case number 6 that modern doctors still can't explain. It's a description of the brain's anatomy so precise, it implies they had tools we haven't rediscovered yet. The papyrus describes the meninges, the cerebrospinal fluid, and the gyri, the folds of the brain. But it uses a word we don't use today, the gates of the god. Visual guidance. Cinematic macro shots of a glowing papyrus scroll. As the camera zooms into the hieroglyphs, they transform into 3D neural pathways. Digital overlays show a one-to-one match between ancient symbols and modern MRI scans. This knowledge came from Imhotep. To the Greeks, he was a god. To the Egyptians, he was the architect. In biomythology, Imhotep realized that if the brain's electrical rhythm was interrupted by trauma, the soul, the ka, could no longer inhabit the body. They used obsidian scalpels. These blades are so sharp they don't cut cells. They separate them at a molecular level. But wait until you see the skulls they left behind. They didn't just drill holes, they performed neural resurrections. Archaeologists have unearthed skulls with perfect surgical trepanation holes. But here's the kicker. The bone edges are smooth and rounded. That is bioevidence of healing. This means the patients survived for years. This wasn't a last resort for a dying man. This was a neural port. By relieving intracranial pressure, they were essentially overclocking the human brain, allowing for higher states of consciousness during the opening of the mouth rituals. But why would a civilization obsessed with the afterlife care so much about the physical brain? Because they knew something we've forgotten. The third eye isn't a metaphor. It's a physical coordinate. Look at the eye of Horus. For centuries, we thought it was just a religious symbol. Now, look at a cross-section of the human brain. The Egyptians weren't just opening the skull. They were targeting the pineal gland, the seat of the God frequency. They understood that the brain was a radio, and trepanation was a way to tune the receiver. This is the ultimate architect's secret. They weren't building pyramids for the gods. They were building them to turn us into gods. We think we are at the peak of medical history, but we are just the latest explorers in a temple that was mapped out 4,000 years ago. Imhotep's manual didn't end. It was hidden, and we are only just now learning how to read the blueprints. So the next time you see a pyramid, don't look at the stones. Look at your own reflection. The great work isn't in the desert. It's behind your eyes. Because we were taught the pharaohs built pyramids to house the dead. But the greatest architecture of ancient Egypt was carved into the living human brain.